Welcome to another episode of Assess and Caress on Jay Leno's Garage. Once again, we are featuring cars from the Audrain collection in Newport, Rhode Island. They are transported here from reliable carriers. They bring them all the way across the country, and we never have to worry about them being scratched or damaged because they do such a good job. We have one of my cars, which has come probably 25 feet, and that's parked right here. Donald Osborne, of course, if his tire appears to have exploded, I think that's what probably happened. Often when you see a firecracker that has half the powder and it just sort of shreds, well, that's kind of the look that you get with there. But that's neither fish nor fowl. What are the cars today, and what is the theme?
The cars today fit a very, very, very obvious theme, Jay. Mm-hmm. They are all Italian.
Right.
We have a 1958 Lancia Aurelia B24 Convertible.
Right, which is my car.
Exactly. A 1969 Moretti Cinquecento Sport, which is actually my car.
Right.
And a 2011 Ferrari 599 GTO from the Audrain collections. The theme here is Italian romance for all budgets.
For all budgets, okay.
Exactly.
Where do you want to start, with the Donald budget?
Let's start with the Lancia. I know that we are both committed Lancisti.
Right.
And Lancia is just an amazing company. In fact, it was a Lancia that first brought us together on the Jay Leno's Garage channel. I brought my 1967 Fulvia Zagato here to the garage.
That's right.
And so that was just scant moments ago. And I still love Lancia as much as I did then. At the moment, I only have a Lancia Appia, but nonetheless, Lancia was a company that was just known for amazing engineering. And when you combine it with this amazing Italian Pininfarina design.
Well, this car in many ways was a rival, and in a lot of ways superior to the equivalent Ferrari of the period. Ferraris were known for big engines, but not so much for brakes and handling as much, you know. Whereas this had kind of a unique suspension. It has the first V6 engine ever developed by Vittorio Jano. A wonderful car, extremely fast for the period. No silly buttock clenching Recaro seats, just big comfortable chairs, big steering wheel. This is vintage motoring at its best. You know, the wheel, everything is nice. You know, this predates power brakes and power steering, so everything is nicely weighted. You know, it has a nice feel to it. I like the B24. The one that's really expensive is the Spyder.
Spyder America.
But I like it. It's got roll-up windows, and in the winter you can put the top up, and it's way more usable. Just a wonderful driving car. The most over-engineered cars. One of the most fascinating things you'll see when you open the hood is the latch on the hood. It's just, well, hey, let's show them what we're talking about. Give that a pull. Okay. Here we are. Now watch this, look at this. Look the way this goes up, clicks, and then comes down. I mean,
no stick required.
No stick. This should have made stick technology obsolete at the time. But just a wonderful motor. Again, having a V6 in an Italian car, that was a huge deal.
And the V6, as you said, was just a part of the entire package. A V6, a rear transaxle,
right.
Inboard rear brakes.
Right.
I mean, this is stuff that was sophisticated in the 1970s, much less in 1951 when this car was introduced.
When you take that transaxle apart, it's the most beautiful gearbox. Oh my God, it's like opening the back of a watch. Oh, it's just wonderful. Plus you have all these odd things like this, these plunger for the suspension. You pull those up every now and then, and it shoots a dollop of oil to all the suspension points. I mean, look at this, no plastic in this thing. I mean, just nicely done. Fuses are easily obtainable. This is a car that has never been restored. It's just been maintained as needed, yeah. So if it appears a bit rough around the edges, that's okay. This turns your hot water on and off for your heater.
And I also love the automatic shutters, thermostatically controlled shutters for the radiator.
Yeah, you got that as well.
It's also one of the things with the transaxle. The Lancia engineers got linkages right in the early 1950s that people were struggling with in the 1970s.
Right, right.
You think that gear lever is directly in a gearbox. You have no idea that it's going back to the transaxle.
I know, isn't that something? I know, it's pretty amazing. And they made I believe they made either a twin carburetor or a three carburetor setup.
Twin carb, the three carb on the Flaminia.
Right, later, right. And a big motor for the period, 2.5 liter. Most cars of this would be a 1.3 or a 1 liter. You even had this far as 850 cc's and smaller cars. This is a big, fast car back in the day.
And you talk about Lancia versus Ferrari, and a lot of people don't know at all that in the
Functional hood scoop.
exactly in the mid-50s, the leading car in terms of sports car racing was actually Lancia. Lancia in 53 and 54 won the Carrera Panamericana, won Le Mans, won the Mille Miglia. Absolutely amazing, absolutely outclassing Ferrari in every way. They were on their way to do it in Formula One as well, but they completely ran out of money.
Right.
And by 1956, they had to give all the Formula One cars to Ferrari. They got out of racing altogether, and the company was sold a few years later to Pezzenti, who saved the company because, again, Lancia was all about design and engineering. There were no accountants running the company.
Well, there's a rumor, and you can set me straight on this one. Lancia,
Vincenzo.
Vincenzo Lancia, he was pursuing this woman who was in the Communist Party.
Oh, no, you think of Johnny Lancia, the son.
Oh, the son, Johnny, the son.
Johnny,
He was pursuing this woman in that crazy Italian way. I must have you now, you know, that kind of. And so he joined the Communist Party for 2 weeks to try and get close to this woman. She said, I don't care if you're communist, get out. So they broke up and he quit. Okay. World War II intervenes, blah, blah, blah. After World War II, the Marshall Plan comes into Italy and says, it's throwing money around. Okay, we're going to do things. We're going to support Fiat. Let's get them back on their feet. Let's help that. They went to Lancia and they went, Communist Party, sorry, pal. And they got no government money. Is that true? Is that a true story or not?
It is a partially true story.
Mm-hmm.
When they were looking for Marshall Plan money, they wanted to make sure that they were giving it to manufacturers who could give as much work as possible.
Right.
And Fiat really, frankly, campaigned because they were the largest manufacturer, obviously, in Italy, and that they could put hundreds of thousands of people back to work.
Right.
And Lancia employed maybe 10 or 15, 20,000 people, and they
Right.
said, we need the money, we need to put Italy back to work, and
Right.
you are the people you need, we are the people you need to support. So they didn't get the kind of support that, that Fiat got, which is one of the other things that spurred Johnny on to say, you know, I want to make sure that I am the head of the premier Italian car company.
Right, but so the testosterone story carries no weight?
Very little.
Really?
Poco.
But
Mi dispiace.
but they were aware he was in the Communist Party, because I know when I would read stories from the day, there were people who thought he shouldn't be, and so I don't know. But
well,
anyway.
there was, after World War II, in Italy, there was a big socialist movement. And indeed, the communists actually came very close to winning control of the government when they had the great plebiscite to get rid of the monarchy after World War II. And so people were very, very sensitive to anyone who had any sort of socialist ties at all. And of course, again, just the rivalry in Turin was very, very, very high between Fiat and Lancia. And so the Agnellis won the day.
Right, okay.
But this is an amazing car because the design is so beautiful. This is Pininfarina at its absolute best in the 1950s. And it's a car that, frankly, isn't as well known as it should be and isn't as respected as it should be. When you think about a car like the BMW 507, which is a beautiful car, but really did nothing for the brand in terms of competition or real a predecessor or successor. This is a car that's at the heart of Lancia in the 1950s and what it would become with the Flamini in the 1960s. So the fact that it's overlooked in the way that it is, I think is a real shame.
Yeah, it is, because it's so delicate. I mean, look at the taillights. There's none of the 50s excesses. You know, America won the war. Everybody's copying America, getting with fins, especially the English and all kinds of weird American affectations, you know. Whereas this just kept the simple design, a bit of a haunches here in the back, you know. I mean, and just a wonderful car to drive. It just revs all day long. You know, this is something you could drive across Italy today, as well as any modern car. Just a wonderful driving car, one of my all-time favorites.
Well, next we'll look at another Italian performance car of a very different character, our 2011 Ferrari.
Let's take a look.
So this is a car which has been chosen to bear the hallowed designation GTO, which Ferrari does not throw out very often. And this version is a street-going version of the 599XX, which is their track car.
Right.
And it's a very interesting car because it weighs 200 pounds less than the standard 599 GTB. So it's all about delivering power and performance to the road in a lighter and more responsive way. The 599 was also the last of the Ferrari V12s to be available with a manual gear shift.
But this one has an automatic, correct?
This has the F1 gearbox.
Right.
And in fact, it was very interesting when this car came out that Ferrari was extremely proud of the fact that it actually lapped their Fiorano test track a second faster than the Enzo. So again, it's all about delivering that kind of performance for the street that you'd normally get in a track car. Also, Pininfarina employed in the design a number of things which we see, for instance, in the current 4GT, or the modern 4GT. The management of the air through those flying buttress pillars that are in the back to manage the air across the rear deck to help with downforce. It's one of those things, track day street cars are always a compromise. And I think in this car, Ferrari made a really good effort to make this a car that is satisfying on the street. It doesn't have to be wrangled. A lot of people talk about driving Daytonas, for instance, that there are cars that you have to be on all the time. This is an amazing and surprising car in that it is not like that. It doesn't have that characteristic,
It's funny. It sits heavy for me. It looks like it weighs a lot more than it does. And I don't think the red color does. Usually red is the color for Ferraris. For this one, it doesn't quite work for me. I don't know why. I don't like the oversized badges, like it's a Ferrari. Can you see that there? Can we put it up here? You know, much like when Pontiac had the big chicken on the hood for the Trans Am, was like, please. It seems overdone, overwrought to me.
Well, it's a very funny thing. The idea of the Scuderia badges, obviously paying homage to the racing team, is something that I find work on a performance Ferrari. On my own personal Roma, I don't have Scuderia badges because I think GT cars don't need them. And if I had a 599 GTB, I probably would have ordered it without the badges because they are optional. But I think for a performance car like this, it does suit the character of the car. And it's very interesting that these shapes are very color sensitive. And I think it's a very sophisticated shape that works best for me in dark colors.
That's what I was going to say, yeah, I agree. Of all the Ferraris, obviously the 62, 64 are the best looking ever. This to me doesn't look as good as almost any other GTO, Ferrari GTO, I would take over this one just for style. I know engine and performance is obviously incredible. It's just style-wise, it doesn't pop for me quite the way the earlier ones do.
Well, engine and performance, let's take a look at this engine, which is absolutely beautiful.
Well, there's that red crackle finish we've talked about in preceding editions of this show that really stands out. Of course, the classic V12. Yeah, I mean, that's the best part of it there. You almost wish it had the sort of like the glass hood the way the ZR1 did, you know, where you could see the engine involved here. But yeah.
It's also so wonderful to think that in 2011, you can see the engine. It wasn't covered with plastic.
Right.
This is the heart of the car, and you see it, you realize it's a mechanical object. And that's so incredibly wonderful.
Yeah, no, really good. That's really impressive.
And this car was also built in a very limited edition. They only built 599 for the world. 125 of them came to the US. This is one of the 125 US models. So it's also a car that you're not going to see yourself coming and going in as well.
Right.
And now from the sublime to the sublimer.
To the ridiculous.
Let's take a look at this little Moretti.
Now this may appear to be Donald's left shoe, but is actually a full-size automobile, isn't it? This is your personal Moretti.
It is.
You must look like a weeble driving this thing, or a circus bear. Maybe you should cut a hole for your head in the roof.
I take this with a great deal of humor because I know that you actually own a pre-war Topolino.
I know. No, actually, I love these very small, spindly Italian cars. They're pretty neat. They're pretty neat.
And Moretti is a very interesting company. People think Moretti and they think beer, which is terrific because Moretti beer is very nice. Moretti is a company started in 1925, building and modifying motorcycles. And he later went into modifying Fiats, as many companies did. And after the war, built his first car in 1946, the Moretti Città, which is based on the Topolino. And another, like this car, a two-cylinder air-cooled car. And he developed through the Cinquecento and then the Seicento and then the Settecinque the 600 750, he actually built his own engines for a twin-cam 750, which was very successful in racing in the small displacement categories. But one thing which happened was, of course, that his cars were very, very expensive and were difficult to sell on the Italian market, and certainly he didn't really market them globally. And so he decided to do modified Fiats, custom-bodied Fiats, and he did them based on the Cinquecento, the 500, the 600, and then later 750 and 850 models. And this is an example of this. This is based on a Fiat Cinquecento.
Now, what is that, about a 13-inch wheel?
It's a 12-inch wheel.
Okay, so any hardware store, any wheelbarrow tire will fix this thing. Yeah.
Wheelbarrow, tractor,
Right.
small trailer. And one of the things that really makes these special is the fact that Italian coach builders really flourished in the 1950s and 60s in a way that all their compatriots around the world didn't. They had all gone out of business because they all redirected their attention towards cars that people would buy.
Right.
And this is something that if you wanted to have a small, handy car, but have a measure of personal style, you could buy something like this Moretti. And this costs twice what a standard Cinquecento costs.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And what size engine? 850?
Would that it were. No.
Yeah.
This, again, the mechanicals of this car are based on the Cinquecento, so it's a 500cc engine
Wow.
from new. This particular example has had its engine replaced. So it actually has a newer engine from a Fiat 126. So it's
Okay.
actually a 652cc.
How many cylinder?
Two-cylinder.
Oh,
Two-cylinder,
two-cylinder.
air-cooled.
Okay.
So it puts out a whopping 40 horsepower.
Well, that's pretty good because the Topolino was 13.5. Well, let's
Exactly. One of the interesting things, too, about looking underneath the hood of this is the fact that you see where the original Cinquecento ended.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And
then the custom body is attached to the Cinquecento platform.
so the engine has not been redone.
The engine has not been redone.
So much like Donald, attractive on the outside, bankrupt on the inside.
I wouldn't call it bankrupt.
Well, bankrupt.
Well, no.
Needs work.
This is a car which is so much fun to drive, and it's something which people here generally don't think about using cars of this size and this power output. But in Italy, you have 500 rallies all the time where they'll drive the length of Italy. They'll go for days at a time, and it's absolutely hysterical to watch them. And this is a car which, people talk about driving go-karts. This is a car which is so incredibly direct, and you are really connected with the driving
Yeah, and you
experience
can
of this
use
car.
all the power all the time,
Exactly.
which is extremely satisfying. I always tell a story about my Morgan. I'm flying down the road and I go past the cop with the radar gun, and oh boy, I'm sorry, I pull over and I wait. He doesn't come, so I come back and I go, "How you doing?" He goes, "Good." Well, how fast are they going? "Oh, speed limit's 40. You're going 36. I go, 30. I thought I was doing 70. He goes, "No, you're only going 36. You're fine." Oh, okay. I mean, that's how much. But I was having so much fun. Whoa, whoa! Yeah.
Exactly. It's an amazing thing, and the fact that you have a capacity to carry bags with you. You could actually go away for the weekend in this car, and it is just one of those things that just brings a smile to your face and a smile to the face of everybody that you drive past or drives past you.
And I always smile when I see any engine where the alternator or generator is bigger than the engine block. I mean, it's like massive. Look at that. Hilarious.
And of course, these cars are infinitely tunable.
Yeah.
So you can do all sorts of things to get this up to 750cc in the two-cylinder configuration,
big
which really
block,
makes them fly, the big block.
No, I admit I've been seduced by these as well. They're just wonderful cars.
So, with our theme, Italian romance for every budget, which of these three vehicles do you think has increased in percentage value the most in the last 5 years?
Well, again, that's tricky because these are not really every budget. These have gotten quite expensive lately. I bought this right before the market kind of went nuts, about 2007, 2008, and then they went a little crazy after that. So I think because its value in the last 5 years. Well, I remember the Spyder version of these going for $1 million. Do you consider this in the same value?
No, this is the convertible,
The
which is a very different market than the Spyder America.
All right. Well, Ferrari is Ferrari, and any GTO is going to be extremely valuable. So that will, I think in the last, these have been expensive for at least 5 years. So if they go up incrementally. So I would probably put this one last, this one first. Let's go this one first, and the Ferrari. Well, the Ferrari's probably going to go crazy. Yeah, they've gone up. All right, Ferrari first, this second, this third. Let's see.
So you're going in order from our left to right.
I think so, but I don't have a lot of faith in that. But
Are you sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't want to change your choice?
It's fine.
Okay, fine. Well, about 5 years ago, a Moretti Cinquecento Sport, which are extremely rare, probably would have cost you about $16,000.
Right.
Now, you'd probably have to pay about $17,000.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
they trade in a very thin market,
Right.
and not a lot of people care.
Right.
They're great cars,
Right.
fantastic cars. The Ferrari, about 5 years ago, would have cost about $800,000. Today, they're $1 million.
Right. Okay.
And the Lancia. As we said before, they are spectacular cars which are incredibly underappreciated. And 5 years ago, one of these would have cost about $500,000. Today, you can get it for about $485,000. The market has softened in these cars.
Right. Okay.
And it's something that I think offers a great opportunity for enthusiasts who want to get out and drive and use their cars.
Right.
Because they are absolutely every bit the match of a BMW 507 that sells for $2.5 million.
Right. Right.
So you're absolutely correct, not only with the top one, but with the order.
Oh, wow.
Who could have imagined such a thing? He's
Wow.
getting good at this. He's got to stop.
Please. Thank you. Thank you. I'm in the wrong business.
Sì, certo.